On the last day of my 40-year marriage, as my husband packed his suitcase, he told me, "You're not young anymore, Dorothy. I want a new life." As he dragged that bag to the door, it never crossed his mind that 6 months later, I'd be leaving through that same door in a limousine, and he would be begging for me to take him back. Comment where you're watching from and stay until the end, because this isn't just a story about being abandoned, it's life's greatest revenge. My name is Dorothy. I'm 65 years old, and until now, I believed my marriage would last forever. I married Richard when I was 25. He was 30. We had a small wedding in Denver and bought that old house on Elmwood Avenue. We lived in that house for 40 years. For 40 years, I washed his socks, cooked his meals, hosted house guests, and supported his career goals. Richard was the founder of Henderson Construction Company. We started small. I kept his books, worked as his secretary, met with clients. As the company grew, I stayed in the background. "Focus on being a housewife, Dorothy," he'd say. "I'll focus on becoming successful in the business world." And he became successful. The company became one of Denver's largest construction firms. Luxury housing, commercial buildings, big projects. Richard now wore suits, expensive watches, had golf club memberships. I was still at home, still washing his dirty dishes. I didn't notice the change at first. Or maybe I didn't want to notice. The late hours, weekend business trips, secretly making phone conversations. "Company's expanding, Dorothy. It's a very stressful period," he'd say. And I believed him, because I had trusted this man for 40 years. Finally, the truth came to the surface. My closest friend Carol told me, "Dorothy, I saw Richard at Larimer Square with a young woman." This wasn't just a business lunch. Carol didn't want to break my heart, but by then everyone in Denver knew. Richard Henderson was having an affair with his young secretary Brittany Collins, 28 years old, blonde, fit, fresh out of college. She was Richard's executive assistant. Of course she was beautiful, of course she was young, of course she was everything I wasn't. That night, I confronted Richard. "I know about Brittany," I said. We were having tea in the living room, just like we had every evening for 40 years. Richard put his cup on the table. He wasn't surprised, wasn't even uncomfortable. "Dorothy, we needed to talk about this anyway." "Talk about what, Richard?" "You're married. You've been married for 40 years. "Dorothy, we're different people now. You've gotten old. I still feel young. Brittany gives me energy, excitement. You're just the same old Dorothy." The same old Dorothy. Dorothy who had lived for him for 40 years, who had sacrificed her own dreams for his success. But now, I was considered old. "Richard, we can work on this. Couples therapy, vacation, whatever you need. Dorothy, it's over." I want a divorce. When I heard that word, the world stopped. Divorce. The end of my 40-year marriage was coming with such a simple word. Richard slept in the guest room that night. The next morning, I made breakfast, just like I did every morning. But he didn't come down. I heard the shower, then footsteps, then silence. At 10 o'clock, he came downstairs. Wearing a suit, fresh shave, cologne smell. He had a suitcase in his hand. "Dorothy, I'm moving out today. Brittany found us a nice apartment downtown. You can keep the house for now, but we'll need to discuss property division soon." A suitcase. A 40-year marriage fit into one suitcase. "Richard, please. Don't throw away 40 years for some young girl." "She's not some young girl, Dorothy. She's my future. You're my past." And right then, the moment he said that sentence, something broke in my heart. But at the same time, something hardened. Pride, dignity, anger, whatever it was, I knew I wouldn't be a victim anymore. "Fine, Richard. Go." but don't expect me to make this easy for you." Richard stopped and looked at me. "Dorothy, be reasonable. We're both adults. Let's handle this maturely." "Mature? Leaving your wife of 40 years for a young secretary is mature?" Richard didn't answer. He took his suitcase and headed for the door. I'll never forget that moment. On the last day of my 40-year marriage, as my husband packed his suitcase, he told me, "You're not young anymore, Dorothy. I want a new life." As he dragged that bag to the door, it never crossed his mind that 6 months later, I'd be leaving through that same door in a limousine. After Richard left, I was alone in that big house. The silence was so loud. There were memories in every room from 40 years. Our first Christmas in the living room, countless dinners I cooked in the kitchen. The bedroom, I didn't want to think about there anymore. The first weeks were the hardest. Crying, not eating, not sleeping. Carol came every day to check on me. "Dorothy, you need to get out. You need to start living again." "Living?" "Carol, I'm 65. My husband left me for someone younger. What kind of life can I start now?" "Dorothy, you're not dead. You're just free." Free. Strange word. For 40 years I hadn't been free. Every decision based on Richard's approval, every plan according to his schedule, every dream according to his priorities. Now I was free, but I didn't know what to do. The financial situation was worrying. Richard had hired a lawyer. Divorce papers came. Property division, alimony, asset split. The legal jargon confused me. Richard's lawyer was expensive. I didn't have money for good legal representation. Sitting alone in the house, thinking about bills, thinking about the future, one day I went down to the basement. There was stuff accumulated over the years down there. Christmas decorations, old furniture, boxes and boxes of things we never used. And in the corner, I remembered my mother. Mom had died 10 years ago. I had put her belongings down here. Never really went through them properly, too painful. But now, maybe it was time. When I opened the first box, a perfume smell came out. Mom's clothes, jewelry, personal items. The second box had photos, letters, documents. The third box was different. It was very heavy. Inside were carefully wrapped items. When I opened the first package, I saw a vase. Old, ornate, beautiful designs. Mom always had nice taste, I thought. The second package had another vase, the third, a ceramic bowl, the fourth, a strange-looking figurine. I brought these items up to the living room, lined them up on the coffee table. They really were beautiful. Mom had never mentioned these. Maybe she forgot. Maybe she didn't think they were important. A week later, Carol came to visit. When she saw the items, she stopped. "Dorothy, where did you get these?" "From Mom's boxes in the basement." "Pretty, right?" Carol looked closer at the vase. "Dorothy, this looks expensive. Really expensive." "Come on, Carol, it's just old stuff." "No, seriously, look at this marking on the bottom." Carol turned the vase over. There was a small signature on the bottom. "Dorothy, I think this might be an antique, a real antique." We decided to do research on the internet. Carol came with her laptop. We searched the signature. The results were shocking. The signature belonged to Heinrich Müller, a famous German ceramicist from the early 1900s. His pieces were selling for thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars at auction houses. "Dorothy, this can't be real." "How would your mother have authentic Heinrich Müller pieces?" Good question. Mom was a middle-class woman. Dad was a factory worker. They couldn't afford luxury antiques. I decided to examine Mom's documents more carefully. Letters, bills, insurance papers, and then I found an envelope. Inside was a letter written in German. We took it to Carol's daughter Sarah for translation. She had studied German in college. The letter told an incredible story. Apparently, Mom's grandmother came from a wealthy German family. During World War II, the family had to escape. They smuggled valuable items to America. Mom's grandmother died young. The items were forgotten for years. "Dorothy," Sarah said, "this letter says there should be more items." "A whole collection." Back to the basement. This time, we carefully opened every box, searched every corner, and we found it. A hidden compartment behind the old water heater. Inside was a metal trunk. When we opened the trunk, our breath stopped. Dozens of ceramic pieces, some jewelry, small paintings, silver items. Each piece wrapped carefully, preserved perfectly. Carol whispered, "Dorothy, I think you're sitting on a fortune." The next day, we called an antique expert, James Morrison, a respected appraiser in Denver. He came to my house, examined the items for hours. "Mrs. Henderson," he finally said, "you have here one of the most significant private collections of early 20th century German ceramics I've ever seen. This is museum-quality stuff." "What does that mean in terms of value?" James did some calculations. "Conservative estimate? We're looking at $2.5 to $3 million, maybe more at the right auction." The world spun. $3 million. While I was stressing about the divorce settlement, there were $3 million worth of antiques sitting in the basement. "Mr. Morrison, are you absolutely sure?" "Mrs. Henderson, I've been doing this for 30 years. These pieces are authentic, they're rare, and they're in perfect condition. With the proper auction house, you could be looking at even higher numbers." That night, I couldn't sleep. Suddenly, everything had changed. Richard had left me thinking I was old, useless, a burden. But actually, I was secretly a millionaire. My first impulse was to call Richard, to tell him. But then I stopped. Why? He chose to leave. He chose Brittany over a 40-year marriage. Why should he benefit from my good fortune? Instead, I called the best divorce lawyer in Denver. "Mrs. Henderson, with assets of this magnitude, we need to be very strategic about disclosure and timing," lawyer Robert Kim said. "What do you mean?" "Right now, your husband's lawyer assumes you're financially dependent. They're offering minimal alimony, expecting you to accept because you have no choice. But if we reveal your assets strategically, we can completely change the dynamics of this divorce." It was a genius plan. First, appraise everything professionally. Then, quietly start selling a few pieces through different auction houses. Build up cash reserves. Meanwhile, let Richard think I was struggling financially. Calls from Richard started coming. "Dorothy, my lawyer says you're being difficult about the settlement. Just accept the terms and we can finalize this quickly." "Richard, I need time. This is 40 years of marriage we're dissolving." "Dorothy, don't drag this out. You know I can afford better lawyers than you." Better lawyers. He had no idea what was coming. The first auction piece sold for $85,000, a small ceramic bowl. The second piece, $120,000. The third piece, a rare vase, $340,000. Within 3 months, I had over $500,000 in cash. Plus, dozens of pieces still left. Meanwhile, Richard was living in a downtown loft with Brittany. They were flaunting their relationship on social media. Fine dining, expensive trips, shopping sprees. Richard was spending money lavishly, assuming the divorce settlement would be cheap, because poor old Dorothy had nothing. Around month 4, I decided to make my move. I hired a private investigator. I want to know everything about Richard's finances, business dealings, and how much he's spending on his new girlfriend. The PI report was fascinating. Richard was using company funds for personal expenses. Expensive gifts for Brittany, luxury vacations, high-end apartment rent, all coming from the business account. The tax implications alone could destroy him criminal charges were even possible. In month 5, I arranged a meeting with Richard. "We need to discuss final settlement terms," I said. Richard came confident. Expensive suit, smug expression. "Dorothy, let's end this amicably. You take the house, I give you $3,000 monthly alimony for 5 years, we split the savings account." Done. I smiled. "Richard, I have a counter-offer." "Dorothy, you're not in a position to counter-offer anything." I placed a folder on the table. Inside, documentation of his financial misconduct, photos of lavish spending, evidence of company fund misuse. "Richard, you've been using Henderson construction money for personal expenses. That's embezzlement. The IRS would be very interested." Richard's face paled. "Dorothy, those are legitimate business expenses." "A $5,000 dinner at Le Bernardin is a business expense? Brittany's $15,000 shopping spree is a business expense? The Hawaii vacation is a business expense?" Richard realized he was trapped. "What do you want, Dorothy?" "Full ownership of Henderson Construction, the house, $10,000 monthly alimony for life, and you cover all legal fees." "Dorothy, that's insane. You can't run a construction company?" I smiled bigger. "Richard, who do you think kept your books for the first 15 years? Who handled client relations? Who managed schedules? I built that company with you. Now I'm taking it back." Richard sputtered. "I'll fight this. My lawyers will. Your lawyers will advise you to settle, because embezzlement charges would mean prison time, Richard, and Brittany probably won't wait for you to get out." Richard signed the papers that afternoon, but I wasn't done yet. 2 weeks later, I held a press conference. Local news, business journals, even some national attention. 65-year-old woman discovers multi-million-dollar antique collection after husband leaves her for younger woman. The story went viral. Dorothy Henderson, abandoned wife turned millionaire entrepreneur. Articles about second chances, women empowerment, justice served. Richard called, panicking. "Dorothy, this is humiliating." Everyone knows now. "Richard, you humiliated me for months, parading around with Brittany. This is just the truth coming out." "What do you want from me?" "Nothing, Richard. Absolutely nothing. I have everything I need now." 6 months after Richard left, I was completely transformed. Professional wardrobe, personal trainer, financial advisor, business consultant. Henderson Construction under new management, mine. Antique collection partially sold, the rest displayed in a beautiful home gallery. And the cherry on top? A new relationship. Dr. James Morrison, the antique appraiser. 58 years old, distinguished, kind, intellectually stimulating. He appreciated art, appreciated intelligence, appreciated mature women. The final scene unfolded like this. After Richard's business collapsed, IRS investigation results, Brittany left him. The young woman didn't want a man with financial troubles and legal problems. Richard, desperate, showed up at my door. "Dorothy, I made a mistake. A huge mistake. Can we try again?" I was preparing to leave for a charity gala. Black evening gown, diamond jewelry, James waiting in the limousine outside. "Richard, you said I was old. You said you wanted a new life." "Well, I found a new life, and you're not part of it." "Dorothy, please. I know I hurt you, but we had 40 years together. That has to mean something." "It did mean something, Richard. It meant I learned what real love should look like. And this isn't it." James came to the door, offering his arm. "Ready for the gala, Dorothy?" As we walked to the limousine, Richard standing alone on the porch, I remembered his words from 6 months ago. "You're not young anymore, Dorothy. I want a new life." Well, Richard got his new life. Alone, broke, humiliated. And I got mine, too. Rich, successful, respected, loved. On the last day of my 40-year marriage, as my husband packed his suitcase, he told me, "You're not young anymore, Dorothy. I want a new life." As he dragged that bag to the door, it never crossed his mind that 6 months later, I'd be leaving through that same door in a limousine, and he would be begging for me to take him back. Sometimes life has perfect timing. Sometimes justice comes with compound interest. And sometimes the most beautiful revenge is simply living well. Richard thought he was trading up. Instead, he lost everything: company, money, respect, love. And I gained everything: wealth, independence, genuine love, self-respect. The moral of the story: never underestimate a woman you've hurt, because you never know what treasures she's hiding in her basement. And you definitely don't know what strength she'll discover when she has nothing left to lose. James and I are now planning new adventures: art collecting, travel, philanthropy. Henderson Construction is expanding, hiring women in leadership positions. The antique collection is now a museum-quality display, open to the public on certain days. Richard? He's working for someone else's construction company now. Brittany? She found another rich, older man. Circle of life. But me? I'm living proof that sometimes the best part of your life starts when you think it's over. A new beginning at 65, new love, new success, and most importantly, a new understanding of my own worth. That night Richard left, I thought my life had ended. Actually, it was just beginning.